Here's everything you need to know about OTAs so far. Welcome back to the Empire State Sports Report. I'm your host, Adrianna, also known as New York Giants fangirl. Please subscribe, like this video, and share with a friend. You guys are the first to know about something exciting. So today we're talking all about OTAs, recapping on some signings and a couple things like that. And then on Thursday, I am having Matt Sims on the podcast, and I am so excited because we're going to talk all things quarterback. We're obviously going to talk about Jackson Dart. For those of you who don't know, Matt Sims is obviously one of Phil Sims' son. He does a podcast with him. But on top of that, he also played football growing up in Jersey, and he was a quarterback, surprise, surprise. And he also played quarterback at Tennessee in college. So if there is someone who has watched film, who knows a lot about Jackson Dart and all of the Giants quarterbacks, it is him. So I'm very excited to have him on. So if you have any questions for him, if you're watching on YouTube, submit them in the comment section here, and I will make sure to ask. It's probably only going to be about 30 minutes, but I will do my best to ask all of your questions to Matt Sims on Thursday. I'm so excited, and we'll let you guys know as soon as that is live. In the meantime, let's get right into it and talk about OTAs. So it seems like there are some good things going on, but these are some of the highlights. Number one, Mike Kafka is calling the plays. Number two, Dable is being very particular with players who are coming back from injury and limiting their reps. Number three, Russell Wilson still has a damn good moon ball. And number four, Jackson Dart looks like he's fitting right in. So let's get into those a little bit deeper and go through some of the highlight plays, if you will. So starting with Kafka calling the plays. Now, I'm sure you guys all remember that Dable said when him and John Mara had that conversation at the end of the season that Dable said that he mentioned it, and then John Mara was like, no, I'm the one who brought it up, so you can decide which one you believe. But it was a conversation between the two of them, whether or not Dable should continue to call plays. Now, in my opinion, I think Kafka should be doing it. He has a lot of experience doing it, and I think that Dable just needs to focus on being a head coach. Yes, he won Coach of the Year in 2022. Since then, he has not been a good head coach. Obviously, the roster makeup, the injuries, the bad quarterback play, all of those things have something to do with it. But mismanaging a kicker, being bad at clock management, having issues with play calling, like all of those things, he needs to improve upon. And if that means that Kafka can take one thing off his plate and focus on calling the plays, he should be doing that. And obviously Kafka has the experience. He's running Dable's offense. And look, we know that Dable has said this. Obviously, he's on the headset. And if he doesn't like a call that Kafka calls, he can jump in and override it and say, no, we're going to do this instead. So I think it is best case scenario between the two. Kafka can do it on a regular basis. And then if Dable feels like he needs to, he can jump in and say, no, I want to run this instead. And so be it. Then we're not going to have the hassle, hopefully, that we had in 2023, where there's reports coming out that Joe Shane had to get involved over the headset, and it was a whole thing. I really think that Kafka calling the plays is going to be beneficial to everyone. I just think Dable needs to focus on what's important, and that is creating a winning team and a team that actually is prepared and focused and ready to win week in and week out. And if that means he doesn't call the plays, then so be it. So as of right now, Kafka did it during rookie mini camp. He's doing it during OTAs. And I think we will get the final answer during preseason. If Kafka continues to call the plays then it's likely he's going to do it through the rest of the season. And I also think that Dable has to have the trust in Kafka to say, if you're doing it now and you're doing it through the season, it's your job. I'm not getting involved. I'm not getting Joe Shane on the headset. I'm not going to, go back and forth with you. If I feel like there's a scenario where I want to jump in and override a play, fine. But I don't want any of this drama and any of this nonsense that went on in 2023. Okay, it's enough. So Kafka, continue to call the plays. So be it. I think it's the best move for everyone. Let me know what you guys think about that. I think the consensus is a lot of us agree. And look, at the end of the day, it's Dable's offense. So it's not like Kafka is out there doing whatever he wants and making shit up. Like, he's going based on Dable's offense and his plays. So I'm on board with it. And I really hope that he continues to do it throughout the spring, summer, and throughout the season. So let's talk about now what Dable said about players coming back from injuries, because he talks about Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence, the obvious guys that we know had surgery or who were injured towards the end of the season and didn't play. Guys like Bobby O, who also said during one of his press conferences with the media that he had a disc issue. And that was one of the reasons why, he was feeling off and wasn't looking like himself. So I really hope that this year is a revenge year for Bobby O. I love him. He's such a good Giant, and he was so, so good his first year with the Giants, and then last year kind of fell off. So I expect this year to be better. He also said he was playing injured. He said that second year in the system makes a big difference. He's obviously got more talent around him. So he's a guy, I'm going to do a whole episode on this, but he's a guy that I really think is going to have a bounce back year this year, and I'm excited about that. But he mentioned Malik Neighbors, and this is something that I was surprised by, because we know that Neighbors was dealing with turf toe throughout the season, right? But he pretty much played almost every game. He missed the first couple of games, not the first couple, but you know what I mean. After the concussion, he was out for a couple games, but then he was back towards the rest of the year. And there was some, he was out of practice with the turf toe, but he almost always played on game day. So the fact that Dable said that he's one of the guys that he is limiting reps for makes me a little concerned. And I don't think Malik Neighbors needs to play a single snap from now until week one. Week one, get him out on the field. He's going to be fine. I'm not worried about him for a second. But it makes me a little concerned that they're already managing it. And Dable also said that this was an injury that Malik was dealing with in college, which is new to all of us. This was never mentioned last year. So I also think that's really interesting, because it sounds like it's something that's been going on for a little bit longer than we anticipated. And, I've spoken to people who have had turf toe. It's an issue with the ligament. And basically what everyone said to me, and if anyone else has experience with turf toe, feel free to chime in the comments and let me know your experience too. But the consensus that I've heard, because A, I'm not a doctor, and B, I've never dealt with turf toe, is that basically you just have to manage it by limiting reps and limiting time on the field, is that you need rest and to take a break. So it sounds like, Neighbors did a lot of that during the off season, and he's doing, whatever rehab he can do. But it sounds like basically they're just going to have to monitor that. And it's going to be something that I think they're going to have to do throughout the season. They have a late bye week, and they obviously need Malik Neighbors. So assuming, knock on wood, that he doesn't have any other injuries this year, I think they'll kind of do what they did last year, where he gets minimal reps during the week and then full go on Sundays. And I think you guys agree with me. We don't really care. It's Malik Neighbors. I'm not worried about him. So I'm glad that it seems like they might be taking a different approach, though, with these guys that are coming back from injuries, because we know that injuries are such a problem with the Giants. So I like that they're limiting it from the get-go. So I'm on board with that. Guys like Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence don't need a lot of reps. They're going to be fine. I'd like to see them get a couple reps before the season, just because of the positions that they play and the nature of how quickly they have to move their feet. And, we need those two guys to be ready to go week one. And it's the same thing with Malik Neighbors and Bobby O. Like, all of those guys who are coming back from injuries, John Runyon, like, they all have to be ready to go week one. We can't have any of this slow start type of nonsense or the season's over. I don't care. You can't go 0-2 for the home opener against the Chiefs and think that, like, that's the week that you're going to turn it around. Like, they have to start off strong. And that means that all of those guys are ready to go. They've gotten reps under their belt to the point where they feel confident taking the stage week one and are ready to pound into the Commanders. So let's hope that's the case. Next up, Jackson Dart. So Jackson Dart, Darius Alexander, and Abdul Carter have all signed their rookie contracts. They are set, good to go. It also sounds like Jackson Dart is keeping the number 6. And I saw something over the weekend where he was interviewed by someone, and, the guy was asking him about Star Wars and his number and Abdul Carter's number. And I have seen maybe 2 Star Wars movies, only the ones with like Jabba the Hutt and Princess Leia. And I'm sure she's been in more than I've seen. I'm sorry, guys. I just am not a Star Wars person. I don't care. Husband, on the other hand, big Star Wars fan. He's like watching The Mandalorian and the whole thing. So maybe I'll get there at some point. But anyway, the whole point of this was that he was asked about his number, and Jackson Dart, who's wearing 6, said, well, me and Abdul Carter, 5 + 1 = 6. And then he said, like, activate rule 666 or something like that. I don't know. You guys who know Star Wars can tell me better. I wasn't paying that much attention, but I thought it was interesting that, we know him and Abdul Carter both love Star Wars, and, we know that he was kind of uncertain about the number 6, but I'm kind of feeling like that's going to be his number. He's going to stick with it. It hasn't really been noted as official yet, But we do know that Scadaboo is keeping his, Abdul Carter's keeping his, and I'm fairly certain that Darius Alexander is also keeping his. So I think some of those guys, if you want to buy jerseys, I think you're good to go. You probably can pre-order Jackson Dart and they'll just ship it whenever the number is confirmed. Up to you whether or not you want to wait. I am not buying anyone's jersey just yet, although I was debating a Scadaboo one, but I think I'm just going to hold out for now and stick with some of my old guys, because every time I buy a new player's jersey, I have Daniel Jones, Saquon, and OBJ. So you guys know how that all went. So I'll wait until, I don't know, maybe these guys prove themselves or something, but anyway, Jackson Dart has been in with the ones and he's looked pretty good so far. He's thrown a few touchdowns, one to little Jordan Humphrey. He also had one to Jalin Hyatt, which I think that we all saw, which I saw Russell Wilson's moonball, which we'll just lump these in together, these two topics. He threw a perfect throw to Jalin Hyatt today. And I was just like, oh, this is what I want to see this season. This is it. This is the type of shit that's going to get me excited. That's going to get me feeling like a delusional fan where I'm like, guys, we're going to be a good football team because Russell Wilson still has it. He's got Jalin Hyatt catching touchdowns. I mean, Jackson Dart has him catching touchdowns. Like, I know it's practice. I get that. It's OTAs. I get it. But if we can see it now, it's early on. Maybe it's going to translate. Maybe. I won't get my hopes up yet. But anyway, the biggest thing that I'm feeling about the quarterback situation as a whole, and I'm sure you guys all feel like this too, is that even though we know we have a really hard schedule and we know that there's a lot of things that have to fall in place for this football team to be good this year, we have an upgrade at quarterback and we have it in 3 out of 4 positions because Tommy DeVito was here last year, so he doesn't count. But when you look at from quarterbacks 1 through 3, all of them now are better than what they have been in the past. And I don't know, it's just getting me excited. I'm really excited about Russ Wilson. The things that I hear from everyone is how wonderful he is in meetings, how he's so invested, how he pauses tape and looks at all the different position groups and shows his leadership capabilities and say, did you guys catch this? This is what we have to look for. This is what we have to be prepared for. That is a leader. That is a quarterback who has a shitload of experience in the NFL, who's prepared for almost anything that's going to come his way. So I don't know. That's the stuff that makes me excited. Like, we didn't hear any of this about Daniel Jones, and people are so like, oh, Jackson Dart has the aura and whatever. And that's fine. No one gives a shit unless he actually throws touchdowns during the season, which is why we don't hear about that from Jackson Dart in meetings, right? Because Russ Wilson is probably leading them. But these are the things that we haven't had in a long time. And to hear that a quarterback is so well respected from his peers and other players in the building and the coaching staff, and they really appreciate his leadership and obviously the knowledge that he's gained being in the NFL for as long as he has and winning a Super Bowl and having 10 Pro Bowls, like that means a lot. And I don't want to like shit on Daniel Jones because we've done this enough, right? But obviously it's a big upgrade there. And when you hear things like that, it's just, how could you not be a little like romantic about it? I don't know. I'm excited about it. And so, this is the other thing that I wanted to talk about with the quarterback specifically when we're talking about, Jackson Dart too, because there's been some conversation about trading Jameis Winston. And where I'm at right now is I think that could be a move for the future, but I would never do it before the first half of this season or before the trade deadline, because the reality is this: since Joe Shane has been here, the Giants have had to play multiple quarterbacks every single year due to injuries or bad play. It's been a mix of both. And on game day, Jackson Dart is going to be the number 3, right? Tommy DeVito's on the practice squad. Jackson Dart is the number 3, which means that he is an emergency quarterback only. So if Russell Wilson goes down, Jameis Winston is going to be the starter. And I just think that the Giants need to protect themselves. And I don't think it's a good idea to go into the season with 3 quarterbacks, one of them being Tommy DeVito and the other one being rookie Jackson Dart, who doesn't know how to slide. So, and this is something that I want to talk to Matt Sims about, because it's so important that that's something that Jackson Dart works on. And he's not going to learn it overnight. He's not going to be an expert at it overnight. And we just can't run the risk of that being the case this year when we have such a hard schedule. So I think it's important that the Giants hold on to Jameis Winston. Also, guys, don't you want to see Jameis Winston in Neighbors? I only want to see that if Russell Wilson gets injured, because I believe that Russell Wilson is going to be a good quarterback this year. Is he going to be a Pro Bowler? I don't know. Probably not. But I think he's going to be good. And obviously, he's going to be significantly better than what we've had. So I have some hope there. But if he goes down, I want to see Jameis Winston first, because if Russell Wilson is playing well enough and the Giants are at 500, or they've won a couple games by, let's hypothetically say, by week 6, then he twists his ankle. Knock on wood, that doesn't happen. I want to see Jameis Winston at that point. He's going to throw the ball down the field. He's going to get Jalin Hyatt involved. Malik Neighbors is going to have 700 yards per game. Like, that's what I want to see, because I feel like we still have time for Jackson Dart to develop. And I don't want to rush him in there. Let Jameis Winston do it. Let him have the pressure and the focus and the opportunity. And then if Jameis Winston throws 4 interceptions in back-to-back games, then fine. Then show us Jackson Dart. I just don't think that Dart should be the number 2. I don't think he's prepared for that yet. And I think because of that, the Giants have to keep Jameis Winston. So I would absolutely not be ready to move him yet, even though there are probably going to be some options for him, like the Saints. The Falcons are talking about trading Kirk Cousins. Like, who knows what's really going to happen. But I do want to see Winston a little bit. If the Giants suck and Russ Wilson looks bad, I want to see Jameis Winston. Just let him get in there. I just want to see him rip it up. And you know what? Maybe we win and maybe we won't win. But like I said, Malik Neighbors is going to have 700 yards in like 2 weeks. So that would be fun as a Giants fan. Like, if you're not going to win football games, at least, let's score some touchdowns and get the ball in your best players' hands. And listen, maybe it's going to be the other team's cornerback some of those times, but maybe it's also going to be Darius Slayton and Malik Neighbors. So speaking of Darius Slayton, I want to end on this. He was rated by one of ESPN's analysts, Aaron Schatz. Deadass, I did not make that up. He picked the most underrated player for all 32 teams. And for the Giants, he picked Darius Slayton. And I want to talk about that for a couple of reasons. I think it's important because I think a lot of Giants fans have, been so disappointed by him. And look, I get he had a drops issue, but he really improved that in the last couple years. And that has to be talked about. Like, I think people need to understand, for 5 out of 6 years, he was the Giants' leading receiver. Was he T. Higgins? No. Literally no one on our team until last year had a 1,000-yard receiving year because of how bad this football team and the quarterback play has been. So I think if you look at it like that, Darius Slayton was a 5th-round pick in 2019, wasn't projected to be anything amazing, and he has the opportunity to be a top, 5 leading Giants receiver in receiving yards for the whole franchise. So he's not a bum, is my point, okay? And I know everyone acts like he's such a bum and he doesn't do anything, but he's actually been relatively productive for a 5th-round draft pick for the Giants, with the lack of good quarterback play that they have had, for a guy who has had drops issues. He really has been pretty good. And I just feel like maybe he deserves a little bit more respect from Giants fans. So I think Darius is going to be a guy who's really going to benefit from having a veteran quarterback like Russell Wilson. I think there's a lot of potential for him this year, and I'm excited to see what he can do. So I hope that he continues to improve upon the drop issue, which, like I said, he did last year. And, I think him and Neighbors could be a pretty decent team. Are they going to be Chase and Higgins? Probably not. Malik might be like Chase, but I just think that Darius Slayton is still going to be a productive wide receiver too for the Giants. And the last thing I want to say is I want to talk about Hyatt for a second, because, Russell Wilson has spoken very highly of him. He threw him a touchdown pass today. He's been involved with Jackson Dart. He put on some weight this offseason, which is what the Giants asked that he do from what I understand. So he bulked up a little bit. And I know there were all these reports that came out that he was clashing with management last year. And it was obvious from his body language and the fact that we found out from reporters that after games, he just rushed right out of the locker room. He didn't even shower, didn't face the media, nothing. So obviously there were some issues there. But the way I look at it is it's a new year. So if we're all going to forgive Dable and Shane for some of the god-awful mistakes that they have made in their tenure, I think that Jalin Hyatt deserves a little bit of forgiveness as well. And he has the opportunity to step up this year and prove to everyone, himself, the Giants organization, the fan base, that he was worth trading up for. And he is a good quarterback and he's going to figure it out. And that's what I want to see from him. I want to see a little humility, learn the playbook, understand what you're doing, and know that you've got a quarterback who believes in you, who's gone out of his way on multiple occasions to say to the media, this guy is underutilized. He has potential. As a wide receiver, what more do you want, honestly? And if you don't think that Russell Wilson saying that and him and Dable having whatever conversations that they're having, that Dable doesn't also agree that, listen, Russ, we had issues in the past. These are the things that I'm telling him to work on. Maybe you can help him out too. Come on. So I think there's a lot of potential for Jalin Hyatt. And you also have to look at it this way, is only our starting 3 wide receivers are set in stone. Darius Slayton, Malik Neighbors, and Mondale Robinson. Outside of that, we like to think that the wide receiver 4 is, in theory, Jalin Hyatt. But if he doesn't prove himself, it could be anyone else. Could be Amir Smith-Marset. Could be Zach Pascal, who caught a couple touchdowns from Russell Wilson already in practice. Could be little Jordan Humphrey, who caught a touchdown from Jackson Dart. There are a bunch of other guys. Bo Collins also caught a touchdown from Jackson Dart. Juice Wells. There are a lot of wide receivers that are going to have the opportunity to get involved and push for a roster spot. So Jalin Hyatt, it's your job to lose, baby. Step it up. I have faith in him. I want to see more from him. And I really think that Russ Wilson being here is going to be beneficial for every single player on this roster. Obviously, the wide receivers are going to benefit the most, but I think he's also really going to help out someone like JMS. So I'm excited about him. Guilty as charged. This is the time where I'm starting to get probably more excited than I should. And then, week 1, I'll probably be flat on my ass with disappointment. So I hope I'm wrong, but you never know with this Giants team. So anyway, I'll be back on Thursday with Matt Sims. Submit your questions in the comments. Very excited. Thank you guys so much for listening. And make sure you subscribe so you are the first people notified when the episode with Matt Sims goes live. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys later this week.